The best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's a quote by Peter Drucker. Time is precious, time is money, and this is a time for Money Talk on Atlantic Television Network. Good day, viewers, and welcome to a fresh episode of ATM Business on Atlantic Television Network right here in the city of Port Harcourt. This is a network's medium of bringing the happenings in the economic sector of the society to our discerning viewers. This program is aimed at bringing to the doorstep of viewers the business, financial, and economic activities from all strata of society. Its delivery is accentuated through the various stock exchanges across the world, news about government economic activities, private sector business activities, lays to the expert opinions, stakeholders analysis, and correspondence reports. Headlines. Official market reports 0.6% appreciation against dollar. Loading resumes at depot. NGX loses 93 billion naira as global equity market tumbles. Equities rebound after historic plunge. By the end of the show, you can be rest assured of being informed accurately of financial activities around the world. I am your host, Wendy Aguma. We take a short break, and when we return, we will out the details. Don't go anywhere.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATM.
Welcome back. Now let's go into market reports, local and international business news for today. Naira on Monday appreciated at the official markets, trading at 1,607.15 Naira to the dollar. Data from the official trading platform of the FMDQ exchange, a platform that oversees the Nigerian autonomous foreign exchange market, showed that the Naira gained 9.93 kobo. This represents a 0.61% gain when compared to the previous trading date on August 2nd, when it exchanged at 1,617.8 Naira to a dollar. However, the total daily turnover reduced to $77.99 million on Monday, down from $131.55 million, recorded on August 2nd. Meanwhile, at the investors and exporters window, the Naira traded between 1,620.50 Naira and 1,570 Naira against the dollar. Federal High Court in Lagos has halted the sale of Nigerian Air to Ethiopian Airlines. The court declared null and void the sale of the shares of Nigeria Air to Ethiopian Airlines after determining the issues in the suit. Justice Ambrose Louis Alagua on Monday ordered that the federal government's plans to establish a national carrier, Nigerian Air, should be halted. The judgment was delivered in favor of the registered trustees of the airline operators of Nigeria and 5 other aviation industry stakeholders. Justice Louis Alagua granted all the relief sought by the plaintiffs except for the request for 2 billion naira in damages. The plaintiffs in the case include the registered trustees of the airline operators of Nigeria, Asman Air Services Limited, Air Peace Limited, Max Air Limited, United Nigerian Airlines Company Limited, and Tobras Aviation Limited. The defendants are Nigeria Air Limited, Ethiopian Airlines, former Minister of Aviation Senator Hadi Sikira, the Federal Ministry of Aviation, and the former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. In the originating summons, the plaintiffs in the suit challenged the sale and transfer of shares of Nigerian Air. The plaintiffs claimed the bidding process for Nigerian Air, facilitated by the federal government of Nigeria, was fraught with irregularities and favored Ethiopian Airlines, a foreign entity wholly owned by the Ethiopian government. The plaintiffs argued that the Federal Ministry of Transportation representatives, who hold significant control in Nigerian Air, failed to comply with the request for proposal guidelines, leading to the exclusion of local airlines from the bidding process. The plaintiffs said the third and fourth defendants, who are key government officials, facilitated a skewed bidding process, granting the second defendant and its consortium unprecedented privileges. The plaintiffs asserted that the entire process had been marred by politics and personal interests designed to achieve an outcome detrimental to Nigerian Airlines and the broader public interest. They sought an order to nullify the entire bidding and selection process for the Nigerian Air project, as well as the approval and selection of Ethiopian Airlines by the defendants. In the judgment delivered on Monday, Justice Louis Alagwa also discounted the sole issues raised by the second defendant, Ethiopian Airlines. Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Imamotimi Agama, has stated that the ongoing bank recapitalization is an important step toward unlocking Nigerians' potential to achieve a $1 trillion economy. He disclosed this as a recent forum in Abuja focused on the ongoing bank recapitalization. Agama, in a statement made available to our correspondent, highlighted the need for comprehensive economic reforms alongside strengthening the banking sector. He noted that recapitalized banks would play a critical role in supporting those efforts. He explained that bank recapitalization revolves increasing the bank's capital to meet regulatory requirements, improve financial stability, and enhance lending capacity. Agama stated that a recapitalized banking sector would lead to increased lending to key sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, and infrastructure. He noted that this would deepen the capital market and encourage the listing of banks and other companies on the Nigerian Exchange Limited. The SEC recently released a framework to ensure transparent and efficient capital raising process for banks and holding companies participating in the recapitalization program. The framework outlines guidelines for raising capital through rights insurance, private placements, or other approved methods during the 2024 to 2026 recapitalization period. The Central Bank of Nigeria in March directed deposit money banks to improve their capitalized base. In a CBN recapitalization circular, commercial banks with international authorizations are to increase their capital base to 500 billion naira and national banks to 200 billion naira, while those with regional authorization are expected to achieve 50 billion naira capital floor. Agama acknowledged the challenges associated with the recapitalization, such as share price dilution and increased debt servicing. However, he reiterated that the benefits, including enhanced investor confidence and better risk management, outweigh the potential drawbacks. According to Agama, Nigeria aims to achieve a $1 trillion economy by 2030, adding that the SEC's recapitalization framework is seen as a crucial step in strengthening the banking sector's asset base and supporting economic growth. Employees at deposit money banks have been enlisted by their employers to achieve financial targets to raise the various banks' capital base in line with the mandatory recapitalization requirements set by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The workers assigned financial targets were asked to assist in raising funds by encouraging customers to open new accounts, reactivate old accounts, and make larger deposits, placing them under pressure to meet the targets. This method, adopted by the banks listed as private limited companies, is used to raise funds internally, cutting across all cadre of staff, including IT personnel, inside sources at commercial banks, told a correspondent on Sunday. This, they said, was because the banks had been unable to effectively access the capital market to raise enough funds. Hence, they opted to set targets for their staff to meet their requirements while searching for private placements and initial public offerings. A staff who works with one of the banks said the procedure was part of a transparency plan submitted to CBN outlining how the recapitalization goals would be achieved. The official, who spoke on condition of anonymity due to fear of being victimized, explained that Union Bank had set a target of 50 billion naira for its staff nationwide to raise through new account openings and other strategies, while Sterling Bank had been contacting customers to reactivate their dormant accounts. The source said, though the targets have remained daunting and unrealistic due to the current economic situation, many workers have embraced it as an opportunity to earn extra income because of the promised incentives. However, lower-level staff who lack contact with high-net-worth individuals have opted to stay from the scheme. The source said other banks are also doing the same by having the staff raise funds too. Bank recapitalization and need for citizens' engagement findings also show that these goals have made bank staff adopt alternative means to reach potential customers, particularly via social media, as the competition for capital intensifies. Similarly, some banks have enlisted the services of social media influencers to promote their offers using platforms like X and TikTok. An official at the Apex Bank, who is not allowed to speak to the press, said the banks are allowed to utilize various means to raise funds, but within the bank's guidelines. Queues at filling stations for premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, may subsidize this week as PMS loading has resumed in Lagos depots. Our correspondent reported on Saturday that the depot owners decided not to open for business because of the hunger protests that started on Thursday. Truck owners and drivers were also afraid of possible attacks while transporting fuel. Other marketers had also explained on Monday that the reappearance of queues at filling stations in many states was because of the halt in the supply of petroleum products by dealers in a bid to avert losing their assets due to the ongoing nationwide hunger protest. Many states in Nigeria, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, witnessed varying degrees of queues about 2 weeks ago, which the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited blamed on a hitch in the discharge of operations of a couple of vessels. While the company and stakeholders worked together to tackle the challenge, the nationwide protest against hunger and economic hardship commenced on Thursday, August 1st, 2024, disrupting petrol supply again and causing its reappearance of queues in some states. However, reliable sources at the depot told our correspondents on Monday that some trucks were loaded on Sunday and Monday to supply petrol across the country. Officials of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority and other government agencies were reportedly at the depot to supervise the process. It was learned that more fuel vessels berthed at the weekend and some depots were supplied. Filling stations short, queues persist as depots ration fuel. Fear queues resurface in Abuja, Ogun State, as other ministers beg for calm, another official told a correspondent. NMD, PRA, and other officials have been on duty since Thursday when the protest started. Just that depots are being careful of the security of trucks and drivers on the road. The official added that the seemingly low protests across the country, especially in Lagos, had been boosted loading since Sunday. The source said the queues in filling stations may start easing up from Monday, though not as it is supposed to be. He, however, noted that the pump price for a litre of petrol might still be high till next week when supply would have been further boosted. We are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. And you can connect with us and watch us on ATN Socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, X, formerly Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. Nigerian equity market shed 93 billion naira on Monday, mirroring the broader global market decline. The all-share index and market capitalization fell by 0.17% to 97,582.41 points and 55.40 trillion naira. The day's trading saw 9,738 transactions totaling 6.217 billion naira, with 3,024.2 million units of shares exchanged. The market breadth was negative as 23 equities gained, while 25 saw their stock prices drop. The top gainers were International Breweries, Presco PLC, and Sovereign Trust Insurance, each posting a 10% rise to close at 4.62 naira, 485.10 naira, and 0.55 naira, respectively. Conversely, Charms PLC led the losers with a 10% decline to close at 1.98 naira, followed by University Press PLC, which shed 9.92% to close at 2.18 naira. And the Initiate PLC down 8.26% to end at 2 naira. The trading volume saw a 54% increase to 324.2 million shares, and the number of deals rose by 47% to 9,738. Senate Bank recorded the highest volume of 37 million trade shares, with United Bank for Africa, Veritas Capital Assurance, and Owando following the 25.5 million and 20.3 million shares respectively. International capital markets also tumbled on Monday as investors reacted to fears of a potential recession in the United States. According to reports, the market shift was prompted by a weak U.S. July payroll report, which revealed an increase in the unemployment rate to 4.3%, the fourth consecutive month rise. The report also indicates a significant shortfall in non-farm payrolls, which rose by only 120,000 against expectations of 200,000. Chief Investment Officer at the Blue Bay Asset Management, Mark Doding, said in the assessment, a lot of market sell-off has been down to position capitulation as a number of microfunds have been caught the wrong way around on a trade, and stops have been triggered, initially starting with FX and the Japanese yen. ATA reported a turbulent week for the Nigerian stock market last week, down by 0.46%. The decline resulted in the market closing at 97,745.73 points and 55.50 trillion naira, respectively, marking a loss of 438 billion naira. Cryptocurrency market has suffered a massive loss, with $900 million wiped out in the last 24 hours. Data from CoinGlass on Monday showed long positions accounted for $764 million of the liquidations, while short positions made up $124 million, according to the report. The liquidations highlighted the risks traders face when trading on unregulated Bitcoin derivative exchanges, where positions can be aggressively closed by the exchange risk engine when they reach liquidation price. According to the report, while a small number of liquidations may have a limited impact on the market, the simultaneous liquidation of thousands of positions can significantly move prices, triggering a cascading effect that may liquidate additional surrounding positions. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's price took a further hit on Monday morning, dipping to $53,000 on Binance, its lowest level since late February this year. CoinGlass noted that the cryptocurrency's decline is attributed to a combination of factors, including uncertainty in the U.S. economy, investors' withdrawals, and increased market turbulence. Crypto investment analyst Okoro Nnamdi shared his insight on the current state of Bitcoin, citing a highly anticipated liquidation due to the formation of a cup and handle pattern in technical analysis. The cup and handle pattern indicates a potential breakout to the upside as the price is expected to rise above the resistance level formed by the top of the cup. Despite the expected liquidation, Nnamdi remained optimistic about Bitcoin's long-term prospects, setting a target price of $150,000 for the cryptocurrency going into 2025. The blockchain expert and team lead as Surfitech, Adewale Kayode, said that the downturn began a few days ago when the Bank of Japan increased its interest rate from 0% to 0.25% for the first time in 30 years. Kayode explained that investors globally had been borrowing from the BOJ at 0% interest rate to invest in riskier assets such as research, stocks, and loans. However, with the rate hike, investors were fearful of a potential series of rate increases and are hastily returning their loans to the BOJ, leading to a massive capital outflow, he explained. Spanish oil giant Repsol has won the tender for the initial cargo of 950,000 barrels of Nigeria's new low-sulfur crude oil blend Also, Gulf Transport and Trading, another leading crude oil dealer, secured the cargo tenders for August and September 2024. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited disclosed this in a statement signed by its spokesperson Olufemi Soneye on Monday. Soneye said NNPC has introduced Autopate crude oil blend, a new crude oil grade, into the international market. He stated that this is located offshore Oka, Akwa Ibom State, has current crude oil production of 28,000 barrels per day, with the potential to increase it to 50,000 barrels per day, adding that the sulfur content of the new crude is 0.0655%. He added that during the August European Crude Conference in London last year, NNPC announced the launch of Nembe crude oil produced by the NNPC RA2-operated OML 29 joint venture. Similar to the Nembe crude oil grade, the Autopate crude oil blend has a low sulfur content and low carbon footprint due to flare gas elimination, fitting perfectly into the required spec of major buyers in Europe. ATM reported earlier that the Suezmax front sole loaded Autopate on July 24th. The vessel load headed to Las Palmas in Canary Islands. The first shipment of Autopate is destined for the Spanish refiner Repsol SA. As of June, Nigeria's daily production stood at 1.25 million barrels per day, according to the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. On Sunday, President Bola Tinubu disclosed that Nigeria's daily oil production had risen to 1.6 million barrels per day in July. This claim has yet to be confirmed, as the data for July has yet to be released. Similarly, the NNPC had also said it would do everything possible to achieve 2 million barrels per day. Experts said this is the only way NNPC could conveniently sell 450,000 barrels per day to Dangote and other local refineries as directed by Tinubu. Last week, the president ordered NNPC to sell crude oil to Dangote Petroleum Refinery and other domestic refineries in Naira. Coalition of Civil Society Organization has announced their intention to closely monitor the compliance of the Nigerian National Petroleum Limited in its crude oil sales to the Dangote Refinery. This move, according to CSOs, aimed to ensure transparency and adherence to regulatory standards in the dealings between the state oil company and the privately owned refinery. CSOs made the accusation known during a facility tour of the 650,000 barrel per day refinery in Lagos. Speaking, Solomon Adodo of the Rise Up for a United Nation spoke on behalf of the 28 CSOs through a statement issued on Monday. Adodo expressed dismay over the government's apparent reluctance to support the local refinery, despite its potential to alleviate the nation's fuel crisis and foreign exchange challenges. The group further accused the NNPCL of disregarding President Bola Tinubu's directive to crude oil to Dangote Refinery in Naira. The CSOs vowed to intensify advocacy efforts to compel the government to prioritize the Dangote Refinery and ensure its smooth operation. The Vice President of Dangote Industries Limited, Devakuma Edwin, echoed the CSO's concerns, highlighting the refinery's potential to transform Nigeria's economy. You're watching ATM Business on Atlantic Television Network. We will be back after this break.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, social economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATM.
Welcome back. This is ATN Business on Atlantic Television Network. And now to the rest of our stories. Most equities ruled Tuesday after the previous day's global roots, fueled by U.S. recession fears that have led to calls for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates before its next meeting. Tokyo, which suffered a record last Monday, led the gains as it soared more than 10% as traders, but beaten down stocks caught up in a catastrophic day for marketers. Tokyo's Nikkei, which tanked more than 12% Monday and suffered a record points loss, jumped 10.2%. Toyota was up more than 12%, Sony powered more than 9%, and chip giant Tokyo Electron added 16.6%. Shanghai, Sydney, Seoul, Taipei, Mumbai, Bangkok, and Manila also rose, but Hong Kong gave up early gains to sit marginally at the red. Singapore and Wellington also suffered more sales. London edged up after shedding around 2% Monday, while Paris and Frankfurt were also higher. But analysts warned that there would likely be more volatility to come. The sell-off followed data Friday, which showed fewer U.S. jobs than expected were created last month, while another report pointed to continued weakness in the manufacturing sector. That led to warnings the Fed had kept rates at more than 2 decades highs for too long and risks causing a recession. Some analysts pointed to the SAM rule, which says an economy is in the early stages of recession if the 3-month moving average of unemployment is 0.5% points above its low over the previous 12 months. That was triggered by Friday's data. Commentators also said a stronger yen had led investors to unwind their carry trades in which they borrowed in the cheap Japanese currency to invest in higher yielding assets such as equities. While Wall Street's 3 main indexes suffered another day of pain, with the Nasdaq down more than 3%, a forecast-beating read on the key U.S. services sector provided some solace. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said at a scheduled meeting conference Tuesday that the stock market has been moving again today and thinks it is important to judge its situation calmly. Federal government revenue hit over 9.1 trillion naira. Aggregate government revenues doubled, hitting over 9.1 trillion naira in the first half of 2024 compared to the first half of 2023 due to our efforts at blocking leakages, introducing automation and mobilizing funding creativity without additional burden on the people. What specific efforts? Okay, so that was part of the speech by the president on Sunday. And I have with me to discuss this a seasoned guest, someone you love to listen to. Welcome, Dr. Harry.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
And this is one of the favorite things I'd love to talk to you about. So the president said so many things, and I have some questions I want you to address. I'm sure my viewers also want to have answers to these questions. Okay. So the first is, what specific efforts were made to block leakages in the government revenue?
Well, very critical reviews clearly shows that the government is working very hard to ensure that leakages, due to corruption is curbed. The idea of making sure that the TSA works efficiently is there. There are additional digital methods of following through with expenditures, expenses, income, and management. How much success that has generated, we cannot tell yet. But from the president's report, we can see that we were able to raise 9.1 trillion, which is quite commendable. But I would personally want to know the source of the revenue, what accounted for that rise, and what are the methods of how this kind of income generation is sustained. So that way, we could probably encourage the president, his team, his minister of the economy, minister of finance, and every other person that has contributed to this huge, result, to replicate and even do better what they have done.
Okay, and then I want to know, how has this automation contributed to the increase in government revenue?
Well, automation basically is designed to track inflows.
Okay.
Also be able to track expenses. But so far, what I would say is not really working well is the fact that we can do midterm increases, midterm expenditures that are requesting more funding, more borrowing, and that critically is not what we should be doing. The digital systems that are put in place today should be able to track exactly what kind of inflows are coming in, especially from oil and gas revenue and every other source of revenue. We are very certain that the government is trying to make sure that our arts, our entertainment is yielding revenue not just only for the entertainers and the high net worth musicians or film actors, but also to be able to see how that can generate income for us. But how this is working so far, we have not been able to track.
Oh, that's a challenge. We cannot track it. Okay, so the President also made mention of creative funding strategies. So I want to know what creative funding strategies were employed to mobilize additional revenue without burdening the people.
Well, these are some of the things that I personally would have liked the President in his speech to address. Because that is one thing that would have gone a long way in assuaging Nigerians, that we have increased revenue without putting much more tax burden, much more charges of any kind, which I will not say is the case now, because for us in the downstream operation, we are paying quite much more than what we have ever paid, and so that's a big pressure on us. These charges we come up with now in paying for services and licenses are completely, mounting pressures on us. So I would have been very happy to hear the President give us clear directions and let us know exactly what are the areas that this revenue generations have been made without putting burden on them. And that's what I said earlier, that once we know what is going on with the government's creative ability and innovative ability that's increasing our revenue, of course, our job will be to encourage those income centers, the ministers if they are, the permanent secretaries if they are, the special purpose vehicles if they are, and see how we can be able to encourage them, because we need to increase our revenue every day in Nigeria.
So in other words, we cannot say that this revenue increase was without burden on the people.
Well, I happen to represent quite a number of people. I represent, as it is today, over 6,000 retail marketers who are complaining very seriously about charges on how to meet up, the licensing fees and all of that. And then also the size of money to be paid for products that we have to take from the depots, to the retail outlets. So that is quite enormous because we, in 2003, by April, even in the month of May, we could buy 145,000 liters truck for about 8-point-something million. But that same product today we're buying between 25 and 30 million. So that is quite a lot, and it's depleting our revenue, our income source. It's giving us challenges on how to make sure that petroleum products are available at our retail outlets.
So while we are waiting on the President to give us clarification on how this revenue was gotten without burdening on the citizens, I want to know how would this revenue increase be useful to Nigerians? What impact will it make?
Well, it will make quite a lot of impact because it's a simple case of we had a budget that, and of course, a budget is just an estimate.
Yeah. An
estimate of what type of income flow and what kind of expenses that will be made. Whether that will happen at the end of the budget cycle is another issue. But if in the first half of 2024 we have already hit 9.1 trillion, that is a good one. So that means by the end of the year, minimum we should do will be 18.2 trillion. So that would have gone a long way to even address the budgetary constraints. And then we may not be borrowing further from foreign donors, foreign financial houses. And once we are not borrowing, the chances of us meeting up with our debt servicing and improving our infrastructure and creating a much more better life style for Nigerians will be guaranteed. So that's quite commendable that we are able to raise 9.1 trillion in for the first half of the year.
Well, I was going to ask what the plans are to sustain and further increase government revenue in the second half of 2024. But seeing as we're not even sure where this increase came from, so I don't know if there's anything you'd love to tell us.
Well, what I would have loved to say is that it's a business. Whether you are president or you are a leader of an organization, there has to be an income, there also has to be an expense. And there has to be a way of making sure that the expenses do not outweigh the income. So what I will suggest to Nigeria and Nigerian leaders is that let us try as much as we can to reduce our expenses, especially our foreign related expenses such as importation of materials that are not really essential for our everyday life. So that way we could be able to save money, raise more money, pay up our debts, and become creative in Nigeria to start to look inwards on how to utilize the revenue we have to grow our economy. Because it's business, we must continue to make profit.
True.
Whether we are doing our welfares or we are, doing our infrastructural services, it must all be designed in a way that while the welfare of Nigerians and the social security is taken care of, that there is income, sizable income, to make sure that every other thing we need is done. Things like research, to develop new products, to develop our economy, to develop services and products that can ensure that the income coming into Nigeria is consistently increasing.
Okay, for time's sake, I want to leave that story and jump on to the next one. And the next one says, okay, so federal government secures 620 million naira under the IDIs. Additionally, now as the president speaking, he said, additionally, we have secured $620 million under the Digital and Creative Enterprises, a program to empower our young people, creating millions of IT and technical jobs that will make them globally competitive. These programs include a 3 million technical talent scheme. Unfortunately, one of the digital centers was vandalized during the protest in Kano. What a shame. In addition, we have introduced a Skill Up Artisans program, the Nigerian Youth Academy, and the National Youth Talent Exports program. Now, that was the president speaking. On September 22nd, 2023, when the day of the launch, that's the day of the launch of this program, in her welcome address on behalf of the president, Dr. Uzoka Anite noted the National Talent Export program is a key national initiative that will serve as a special purpose vehicle to position Nigeria as a leading global hub to service exports, talent sourcing and talent exports. He will be the national. So how will the National Youth Program help export Nigerian talents globally?
Well, without preempting that this discussion will come up, I think I addressed it, much earlier in my interventions. This is a very welcome idea. I mean, a youth talent export is such a very welcome idea that if we really do it well, that will be like replicating the technology hub of Ireland and then the Silicon Valley of California and also the Silicon Valley equivalent in India. Today you can see that Indians are really the leaders of the world. They don't need to be presidents or vice presidents anywhere in the world. They are leading the industry. If you go to Google, the CEO is an Indian. Several, major companies, corporate organizations in the world have Indians. And the reason why they are there is because they grew from the Silicon Valley experience. And so this kind of innovation from Nigeria will be such a great one. We're already 200 million plus Nigerians.
Yeah.
And we have over 65% youth population, as estimated. So if we do put the best attention to this program, and again, we need to be certain that when we come up with policies, these policies must necessarily be addressed, nurtured, and groomed to bring ultimate results. I mean, if we had aimed to bring 3 million Nigerians to be useful in the world in different skills, we should be projecting to grow that, geometrically.
Okay, for time's sake, I just want to ask one last question before we wrap up the show. And that question would be, how do we measure the success of these programs? We have so many of youth innovative programs everywhere. So how do we measure the successes of these programs?
Well, the way to measure any success is by data collation. When there is a project, it should be carefully designed in a way that those who are coming in should be effectively documented. There should be a data of entry, there should be a data of daily progress, and then there should be a data of exit. And even after the exit, we should be able to follow through with what is going on. Now, that's the only way we can. If $620 million is invested in youth talent export program, we should be looking at how can that $620 million be increased to $1 billion? How can it be increased to $2 billion? So the only way to measure that is only by data analysis. And we want to encourage the government and those who are responsible for these projects to be able to make sure that there is critical analysis. And it shouldn't be an emotional one. We should really, really be focused on quality, not quantity, but quality, and ensuring that the quantity we pursue are qualified to do the job.
Thank you so much, Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry. It's amazing having you here. I hope to have you again really soon. But then again, this is where we wrap it up on this edition of ATN Business here on Atlantic Television Network here in the city of Port Harcourt. I am Wendy Aguma. We are open for advertisement, bookings, and commercials. Stay connected on ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, X formerly Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching and good afternoon.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring